They coming off a brutal loss. I mean, that was hard as they come this last game. I mean, we had everything under control. You're up 14 points in the fourth quarter. Um, just a tough way to lose. Um, had some mistakes. That cost us. Had a chance to finish them out, and unfortunately, we have 3 one-possession losses. We're probably 3 kicks away from being 5-1, but we're not. We're 2-4. Um, we that the last game is tough because the pick six. If we don't turn the ball over, our thought process at the end of the game, just don't turn the ball over. But the worst thing that could happen is not only a turnover, but a turnover for return for a touchdown. So we had the double whammy. But on that play, we had a protection breakdown, and fortunately, we had a guy that was wide open. Actually, the guy covering him had fallen down. So if we throw the ball incomplete and do what it's supposed to, I mean, if we protect it right, he probably scores. But such is the game that we're in. The margin has been super thin for us. But we recognize that, and we recognize we just got to stay the course, continue to keep working. Our guys have been awesome. We have great young men on our team. They come to work. They've done all that we've asked. We just got to coach better. We got to play better. We got to play better complementary football. Find a way not to beat ourselves. But I'm excited the way our guys came back this week. After, like I said, I've been doing this a long time, way longer than those guys. 36 years. That's probably one of the toughest losses that I've been involved with. Just the way everything transpired, because we had total control of the game, and I'm used to finding ways to close games out, and not to be able to close the game out, it definitely hurts. But our guys came to work this week. Going to be a tough game in Logan, Utah, against Utah State. Playing some good football. They had a tough loss like us last week in Hawaii, but they're a really good team, well coached. Bronco Mendenhall is one of the best football coaches in college football. Been coaching a long time, and has been successful everywhere he's been. At BYU, Virginia, got things turned around in New Mexico. Now he's at Utah State doing good things. So really good football coaches. We're very familiar with him. He's a good friend of mine. He's just a really good person, really good coach. But also the coordinators, Kevin McGibbon, who's here for many years. Obviously worked here last year, so we know what type of coach he is. He's an elite football mind, great person. And so we know we're going to have our hands full with their offense. Their quarterback, Bryson Barnes, I mean, I'm looking forward to meeting that guy after the game, because that guy is one of the toughest guys in playing football right now. Really, really good quarterback. They utilize his skill set very well. He can throw, he can run you over. He takes shots, gets up. I mean, he's a tough kid. And my son played at the University of Utah, so I've seen the kid previously. I mean, saw him when he was at Utah when they went to the Coliseum and beat USC. And so this guy's a legit quarterback, one of the premier quarterbacks not only in our conference but in the country. So we'll have our hands full with him, along with Kevin doing their coordinating. And on defense, Coach Howell, longtime defensive coordinator, been a coordinator at Power 4 schools, very successful, really good coach. And so it's going to be a tough game. We know it's going to be a great environment. We have 3 coaches on our team, on our staff that actually played there. And we got, 4 of them. 4 of our coaches here have actually coached there at Utah State. And so very familiar with the environment. And so for a Friday night homecoming game, it's going to be, a lively crowd, noise. But our guys are looking forward to it. We got to find a way to get back on track. And our guys are looking forward to this game.
Questions for Coach, and please speak here with Mike.
Vic Aquino, Mountain West Connection, SB Nation. There's these games, I think you described it, have these ebbs and flows and like double whammies, like you said, and things. Is there sort of a coaching philosophy to recognize where these momentums are coming, and even to get people on, refocus and whatnot, and just that sort of consistency?
Yeah, I mean, you just, obviously when Walker went down, it kind of was kind of a jolt to our team. But we, like you said, we have to reset. We always talk about resetting, refocusing. We do breathing drills, just all the things that everybody does. But you got to find a way to reset and just stay the course, Vic. That's really all you can do. And it's also not only a metaphor for the game, for a half, for the season, but also in life. I mean, things happen. Adversity come, and you got to find a way to fight through it. Continue to stay the course, and we just got to find a way to stay the course and just keep fighting.
And with, I'm sure you talked also about corrections or the minutia of personnel or whatever when these ebbs and flows happen. Are there like still holistic or philosophical things you tell the kids? Like, you can still take calculated risk, or you can still be yourself or your instincts. I mean, they're still the ones performing out there. You still give them that freedom to think for themselves and do what they think they need to do out of the situation.
Yeah, Coach Odum had a really good point today in his team meeting, just trying to get those guys to relax, breathe. But we were playing lights out. For instance, last week we were playing lights out in the third quarter. When we lost Walker, obviously we were sputtering on offense, but our defense was playing so well. We were in good shape. We just didn't have to turn the ball over. They couldn't move the ball. We had a couple turnovers, and so we were playing really good. We just have to settle down, breathe, and just keep playing. Just trust yourself. Don't be so passive and like you said, don't be afraid, but just play like they were playing that whole quarter, because we were playing lights out on offense in the first half. Walker gets hurt, we sputtered a little bit, and then the defense kind of took over and helped us in our team in the third quarter, and they're playing well into those last two drives. But the message, hey, just keep doing what you're doing before. Don't do anything different. Don't do anything more. Just do your job.
Aaron Johnson with the Mercury News, and then what's the preparation like, after a tough loss like that on a short week going to face Utah State, 3-0 at home as well this year so far.
Yeah, so it's we got back around midnight, or a little after midnight, probably after midnight. It was late, Saturday night. We didn't come back until maybe noon on Sunday, just for our guys to meetings and stuff like that, and a lot of kind of flush that game out. And we kind of did a little bit of practice. Yesterday we were practicing the last 2 days, and so. But I think our guys have been working hard. I've been happy to see the way we've practiced, because that's tough, and it's a testament to me to the character of the young men we have on our team. We have really good people, and also to the leadership on our football team, and they've done a really good job of just staying the course, and we just go back to work. Because, like I said, it was hard. That was a hard loss to take, the way things unfolded. But our guys just stayed the course and just came back this week with a great attitude and mindset.
And then Walker, are we going to expect to see him going this week against Utah State?
We're very hopeful. We'll see. And so every day he looked better. I mean, obviously he gutted it out there in pain, and the last drive just shows who the kid is. So we're hopeful. I mean, things look better and better every day as the week's gone on, but we're not 100%, but we'll see.
And then Scadero's, he took a big shot. Is he going to be all right to play this week too?
Same thing. We're hopeful that those guys will play, but we're not sure right now.
Nick Urias with KSJS. Coach, you kind of touched on Bryson Barnes and his capabilities, but he's got 18 touchdowns through the air and on the ground himself combined this year. Just how do you kind of stay disciplined, just with his skill sets and what he brings to the table?
Well, Coach McGill and Kevin's doing a really good job coordinating, recognizing this young man's skill set. So they do a lot of things, a lot of different personnel groupings, a lot of different run schemes. They go and empty in pretty much every personnel grouping and spread you out. You know what I mean? And so they can throw the football and do all those things. But you also got to be mindful of all the quarterback run stuff that he does. And so what they do puts you in a bind. Like I said, Kevin's doing a really good job schematic with him. They do a lot on offense, a lot of stuff schematically. And so what they do for this skill set is perfect for him. Because, like I said, if you try to, load the box up on him, just kick and throw the football. I mean, he can throw the football. He can throw on the run, which they do. They they boot him and, get him outside the pocket. He can throw on the run. He can throw from the pocket, play action pass stuff. They get a lot of gadget plays too. And Kevin's really good at that. And so this guy's gonna be a handful. Playing, trying to stop Barnes. I mean, everybody's struggled. I mean, Vanderbilt struggled to stop this guy. He's a really good player. But the most impressive thing about me is his toughness. I mean, that kid he's as tough as I've seen. And not just playing at Utah State. I've seen him before when he was at Utah. And this is on a fluke. This is this kid's makeup. He's, like I said, I'm looking forward to meeting him after the game, shake his hand, because I'm really, really impressed with this guy.
And I know you're getting your team ready, for traveling on the road, but your son's on the coaching staff for Utah State. Just what's that dynamic going to be like, during the game and as you prepare for this one?
Yeah, so my older son Val was on the University of Hawaii staff when we played them when I was at Navy and we lost. So I'm 0-1 against my sons. I definitely don't want to go 0-2 against my sons. And so normally we talk. We haven't been talking much this week. In fact, we haven't been talking this week. And he talks to my wife. You know what I mean? He doesn't talk to me. So yeah. I mean, it's been, he decided to get in this profession, so he recognizes what it is, and it's hard to win. We're going to do everything we can to beat them. Obviously, they're going to do everything they can to beat us. Obviously, my son's there, but I'm good friends with a lot of guys on their staff. You know what I mean? Like Kevin was here last year, got to know him very well. Bronco, Coach Howell, guys known in the past. But yeah, it would be different seeing my son on the other sideline. You know what I mean? But I still remember when we were playing Hawaii, and they were beating us. Like I said, Coach Stutzmann was on the staff, and my older son was charting plays for them, and they were beating us. And I remember in the fourth quarter, just looking across the field and seeing my son chart stuff. I wanted to run across the field and knock the chart out of his hand, yeah, maybe I run across and knock the chart off his hand, but I'll probably get a penalty. But yeah, I'm excited for him. I'm excited for him. He's working for a great coach, and Coach Bronco he couldn't be under a better coach to learn from in this profession. So I'm grateful that he's under his guidance and Coach McGivn's guidance. But they're going to try to beat us. We're friends. My son's on the staff, and we're definitely going to try to beat them.
How you doing, Coach? Nick Austin with Zeality. This past week, obviously, Matthias was good from the extra points, but as far as field goals go, he was 0-2. Does that possibly open the door for Dennis to compete for the job again, or do you want to see more from Matthias as far as game action goes?
Well, we're having a competition this week, so they're having every day we're having a kickoff, so to speak, and yeah. I hope I was kind of hoping wouldn't have that discussion and hopefully get past it, but it's the elephant in the room. I mean, we have to get better at field goal kicking. I mean, it's cost us, and so it's opened up again. We got one more day tomorrow of kicking, but we're charting them. They both get the same amount of kicks from the same hash, and we're just charting whoever kicks the best this week is going to kick.
Hey, Coach, Niles Hall with the Spear. When trying to close out games, you guys have struggled. What's the plan for improving the way Christian closes out games?
Yeah, it's a great question. That's what we talked about this morning. I mean, in 3 of our 4 losses, obviously, Texas was up big to us, but in 3 or 4 losses, I mean, we couldn't close out games at the end. We had opportunities to close games, and we got to find a way to get that remedied. Where I was previously, that was kind of our forte of just closing people out at the end. If we had a lead in the 3rd or 4th quarter, I mean, we found a way to close you out. But I think a big part of it is we can't beat ourselves. So some of the mistakes that happen to us are self-inflicted wounds. Like I said, on that 4th down pick, I mean, the guy that knocked the ball down, he should have been blocked. And so if he blocks the guy that's we're running a route, the guy running a route's wide open. So those are the hard ones to swallow. Like if he had ran over our guy blocking him and say, hey, that guy made a great play, and it is what it is. But protection-wise, we broke down, and we had a missed assignment. So those are the things in closing out games. You can't beat yourself first and foremost, which we have. And a lot of times at the end, to win, you close out games, you got to make kicks. That's the truth of the matter. You can't beat yourself, and you can't have penalties. And in close games, a lot of times you got to make kicks. I mean, that's just truth. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to make kicks at the end to close games out.
Hey, Coach. Hadi Barghouti, Spears Spartan Daily. And in the event that Walker can't go on Friday, do you expect to see a 50-50 split between Xavier Ward and Tama at quarterback?
Oh, we don't know. I mean, right now they're getting both of those guys are splitting reps in practice. Coach Stutzmann, we're still taking a look at that. It's kind of the same thing. Who does the best this week and who we feel the best of. But if Walker can't go, we'll see how the game goes too. We don't want to box ourselves into okay, whoever wins it this week is going to be the quarterback. And we're not sure if we're going to split like it is. I mean, that's hard for a quarterback to kind of go back and forth. Trying to get a rhythm. It's hard for Craig as a play caller. Trying to go back and forth. And so both of those guys have gotten the majority of the reps this week. And, we'll go back and watch film right after this and kind of continue to evaluate. And then we got tomorrow's practice to try to maybe solidify things there.
And then how do you plan to utilize the run game going into this week's matchup?
Well, still like we've always had. We're a big RPO team. It's what people give us. We had we had numbers games last week to run the game. You got to give Wyoming credit. They got after us up front. It wasn't their numbers and stuff that they presented wasn't any different than New Mexico and Idaho the week before at times. And when we had the boxes to run the football in, we didn't get enough yards. We got to just do a better job of being more physical, which is hard to fix on a week like this because you got to be careful. You can't go out there and bang and have physical practice because our kids are beat up. We played 83 snaps on offense with a short week. So you can't go out there in full pads and hit and stuff like that because it's game 7. And so hopefully we can just focus on the technical parts, get our pads down, get our hands inside, proper steps, proper aiming points in our blocking. But a big part of it is just our blocking up front to improve the run game.
Coach Vic Aquino, Mountain West Connection, SB Nation. There's a question earlier about obviously defensive consistency, obviously towards the end of the game. Or do you attribute it more to like maybe the offense is adjusting better, or is it just in a sense like maybe calling the right matchup or personnel groupings? Can you maybe go around that question?
You're referring to the end of the game?
Actually, in general, I guess maybe end of the last game and in general, in terms of like maybe the defense maintaining their fast starts, and finding that consistency.
Yeah. The adjustments are constantly being made all the time. Now that we have those iPads right on the sideline, we're looking at the last drive and seeing what we did right and what's wrong and fixing those constantly, per play, really. So in real time. So that's constantly going on. We're, trying to predict what they might do next, and trying to head that off before it happens. And so it's a constant chess match when it comes to that, and then what have I, called up until that point, and what do I have left that I could, change up and do that. So it's ongoing, and it stays that way. The last couple drives, looking back, I think they were trying to do too much and, trying to get the win, and you get tighter and you try, and so that was a reverse effect that we didn't need, at that time. And all these things are learning process, and we got to talk about it and figure it out and conversate with the guys how we can just maintain what we've done up until that point. Yeah.
And obviously, your familiarity with Coach McGiven, 2 years with Coach Brennan, you probably know each other's ticks and tells and whatnot. Is there something extra that he knows your tendencies and whatnot, and vice versa? How is that more interesting or whatnot?
Yeah, I don't know if people ask me that a lot. I don't know if it's because every year you have different players, right? So you mold things to the players you have. This year, it might be more of a 4-man rush because we got 4 guys that can get after the quarterback. The next year it could be we don't have those guys. We change it and do this now, whatever it may be. And he's the same way. He's got different players. This guy, their quarterback is, he can run. He's tough. So they have more QB run game. Where, Chev just ran and did things on his own. Because he could ad lib. So I don't way too much into that. You know what I mean? You watch the film and you try to defend what they do, and that's about it, really.
Aaron Johnson with the Mercury News, and then Coach Ken said in the team meetings today you had a big emphasis on just telling your defense just to relax and breathe in kind of big moments. Can you just speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's always, in my opinion, two things occur, in a crunch time of a game that have happened to us. It seems like it's just that either you are trying too hard and you're going out of character because you really want to win, and you do things that you hadn't been doing in the game before, like you're going out of character. You're gonna, instead of rush on the outside, you're gonna rush in the B gap on this particular play where you've done it right the whole game, but you're trying to make a play and do something extra, and then that's a snowball effect where now we have an error and a big play occurs because of that. Or you're a little cautious and you don't want to give up a big play, and you're a little bit more reserved in what you're should be doing. And so we addressed all those things and showed them how we changed apparently, and we just talked about, hey, just want to take a deep breath, calm down, slow your heart rate, let's go perform. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. And again, it's just we have a lot of new guys out there, and they're just learning how to, they've been in those spots a few times. We just got to get over the edge there. And so it's constant learning. I mean, that's what we're going to do, and keep preaching it. And because we're really close, it's not like we're getting blown out of games. We're right there, and then we just got to finish. That's the big part, finish.
And then just being in like all of these one-score games, and just what have you seen from the team's kind of like response? Because the record's not what ideal for you guys right now, but you were so close to just being maybe 5-1 even. So.
Yeah, I mean it is. We can look back at a play here and play there, but we just gotta get over the hump and finish out a game, and that's sometimes easier said than done. They have to go through it to know what it's like to finish, and again, we've watched a lot of film with the guys and how we can improve in those situations when we get in those spots, and hopefully moving forward we get in that situation again, we can finish it, and I'm just really proud of the guys because they have the fight, they have the willpower, they want to do what's right, what I mean. There's no bickering whatsoever. They're just eager to please the guy next to them, please the coaches. I mean, there's just a really good group, and I wish we could pull some of those out, that we had those tight games, but we didn't. And so moving forward, there's still a lot to play for in the season, and that's what we're focused on.
And then just what goes in preparing for someone like Bryson Barnes from Utah State, the quarterback?
Yeah, very dangerous. I mean, he's tough as nails. He's highly competitive. You can see guys that like I look at like a Baker Mayfield, like he's really a competitive player, and his whole team rallies around his competitiveness. That's how Barnes is as well for them. He's really tough. He runs the ball hard. He has a strong arm, and he's a great leader. You can see that, and everybody rallies around him. So he's a huge challenge for us this week.
Nick Urias with KSJS. Coach Anthony Garcia was a San Jose State Spartan back in 2023. Now he's on the Utah State roster, and he's kind of like their gadget guy. He could do a bunch of different things. Just what are you seeing with him on film, and what he's being utilized as in this offense?
Yeah, extreme athlete. He was a quarterback, and he could throw it and run with the ball. I mean, he's just a really, really good athlete. And now they moved him over to receiver, but he still has those same skill sets that he did as a quarterback. And so you got to be aware of where he's at, but he can do a lot of different things. He's really evolving into a really good receiver. And there's a lot of similarities with him and Nick Nash in that regard. You know what I mean? So, we're aware of what he can do. He can definitely hurt you. And so we got to be aware where he's at all the time.
How you doing, Coach? Nick Austin with Reality. Utah State's scoring offense, they score about 95% of the time they're in the red zone. What have you seen from them as far as when they get down that short yardage like situations?
Yeah, they're real multiple. They can do a lot of different things. They have a lot of different formations and a lot of different personnel groups, and that can make it a challenge to match up with all the things that they can do down there. And plus, the quarterback being able to run the ball. That's another guy that's a threat to score. Some teams are just more run the ball with their backs or throw the ball with their quarterback, but he can do both, and so that added element makes it tough.
And then when looking at the final drive on film, what went wrong for you guys?
I'm trying to think back. So I know the drive before that we had penalties. Just like a PI that I don't know. I thought the ball was a little high and not catchable, but regardless, it was a PI, and then a roughing the passer, like all those things. Again, guys trying so hard to finish the game, and it kind of snowballed there. And then they got us on a slip screen that they hadn't done up until that point, and we were in the right coverage for them to exploit. And it was just, you got to give them credit. We got the ball down. And then on the ground, and then we had a couple of good plays where we stuffed them. Now we're thinking, okay, we got to try to block this field goal attempt, and then we had a bunch of guys around the football on a run, and then we didn't make the tackle. You know what I mean? We had 4 guys miss, and that hadn't happened in the game up until that point. So again, got to learn from it. They were all crushed by it. I mean, crushed, and they've rebounded this week, and that's where we're at.
Hey coach, Hadi Barghouti, Spartan Daily Spear, and so up until the New Mexico game, we saw the defense with 0 interceptions, but over the last 2 games, you guys forced 3. What changes or adjustments have you made in the secondary to create more like interceptions?
Absolutely nothing. We just go out and play, and then again in practice we work on ball skills and catching balls and punching balls out, and you just keep going. And then I've said in the past that turnovers happen in bunches. You just don't know when. And the last couple of games they've happened that way. But again, we praise it, but we praise it in practice every day. You know what I mean? If we don't get in the game, we're praising it in practice. So again, they just have confidence that they can make the play, and we just hope that we get in those positions to make them, and we do finish them. And the last couple of games we have.
And then what have you like seen from guys like Isaiah Rivas like going into like next week?
What have I seen from him in what regard?
In just like in the secondary overall, like you feel like he's become kind of like just the vocal leader like of that group.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy that we throw in a lot of different spots. He's very versatile. He can play some man to man, and then he can also do a nice job in zone coverage. He's a vocal guy. He's a guy that spends a lot of time in the film room, really trying to diagnose what an offense might do, and so he has great confidence when he does play in the games that he can, perform at a high level. And so just pleased with him, what he's done so far. But he would even say that he can, still get better in a lot of areas. So that's the kind of guys you want.
Figure Kino, SB Nation, Mountain West Connection. If I can get in your mind a little bit and say how your breadth and depth of contingency planning, knowing that maybe Walker's 79%, or maybe have Tama for the whole game, or Xavier, or both. Like that's when you go to sleep at night. What do you? How far are you thinking about all this stuff?
I don't really go to sleep at night. It keeps you up at night. But at the same time, too, though, that's what the job entails. You got to plan for the what ifs. What's facts, what's going on right now, and you can't really. I guess you do have to have different types of plans, and there's all 3 of those guys are different, and then when you talk about specifically X and Tama, they're completely different type of players and quarterbacks. So, but the thing is that I have a lot of appreciation for Coach Ken, because he said, Stutz, doesn't matter, just go ahead and call the offense, run what we can run the stuff that we do run, and continue to be on the attack. And so we're going to do that. And whoever is able to do that throughout practice this week, if Walker can't go, then it's going to be just that. We're going to call the game, and we're going to use everything because a lot of our weapons are the guys on the outside. And so when you limit yourself from not using the guys on the outside, then it becomes one of those things where you just, those guys are just kind of props on the outside. So we got to find ways, and within what we do, maybe a couple of different wrinkles, but at the same time, too, though, we're going to do what we're going to do and trust those guys because they put a lot of effort into it. The receivers has the offensive line, the quarterbacks, the tight ends, but the running backs, but specifically the quarterbacks, they've got a ton of reps from spring all the way till now. So, it's time to just let them roll and see what they can do.
And you mentioned, so the weapons, are there sort of their minutiae of adjustments per Tama or per Xavier? Is it things you have to recognize for that?
Probably a little bit, but at the same time too, though, like Coach said, and like I just said, we're going to do what we do. and the guys can or they can't. That's just what it comes down to. And I think, for me personally, I do. It's the nature of the business. You have to plan, and if you're not worried, you're not passionate about stuff. If you're not, if it's not always on your mind, if I could sleep good at night, then I'm not going to be very good at my job. My job is to make sure that the guys are prepared, make sure that the game plan is solid. And then after that, that's part of coaching. That's why it's such a crazy profession. Then you sit back and you let the players play. And they do or they don't. And what they can't, you got to keep on helping them with. What they can, you got to just keep on rolling with it and trust it. So it's it's like being a parent, right? You teach them all the way through, and then when they turn 18 or whatever they do, and they go into the real world, it's they can or they can't. And what they struggle with, you got to continue to help them. But at the same time, too, though, it's also their life. So the players, when they get on the field, go play some ball. And the good thing is, most times guys will rise up, and that's what athletes do. They rise up.
And how you call each series, I
Mhm.
guess, people assume that every series is just, the intent and the goal is to score. But
Right.
are there times where it's like maybe just to probe or exploit a weakness or set up a next series? Or, how deep
Yeah.
is that sense of calling each series?
Yeah, I think when you have a guy like Walker, it's always on the attack, always trying to look at what they're doing. And defenses are good. They're going to change different looks. But at the same time, too, the players, how we train them, and also the plays that we've created, every play is designed to have explosive plays within it. They're supposed to score. And if certain defenses take certain things away, then there's also answers to it. So every play has, the ability to just have one of those wow moments. With a guy like where we were in Wyoming, I would say, right, we're up 14 points. The other guys haven't really played. Our defense is doing a really good job in that second, third quarter. My perspective was, or my thoughts were, hey, let's not do anything, right, to give momentum to Wyoming, and so there were some things that happened, and sometimes it's beyond your control. Sometimes it's some things that you can't control. But at the same time, too, though, I can't just second guess everything that we do, or myself, or the players. It's whatever you see and how you're going to go play the game and how you're going to win the football game. We just got to finish better. That's all it is. Collectively, we have to finish better.
And I just want to get your perspective on that do-over down, the 4th and 2 that was initially converted, and then the substitution, and then they have to give Wyoming time, and they just say, do it again, then it turns into a pick six. Just what was just your reaction to that whole sequence?
Lost for words. Still to this point, or till this day, you wake up in the middle of the night or in the morning, you're like, gosh, I can't believe that happened. But at the same time, too, though, it's not like they took the ball away after that 4th and 1 conversion. Said, oh, you know what? We're not even going to give you a chance. We still had a chance. And I want to take back that play call that I had, that we got the first down. And I want to take back the play call after that. To be sure. I mean, dude, like, if you're hurt, you got to worry about what you got and the future and all that kind of stuff. And he said, Coach, if I can throw, I'm going to play. And if I can't throw, I'll just come right out. I was like, all right, so is that good medically? And so he was cleared to go in, and he played. Showed a lot of toughness, a lot of grit, and that's why he's our leader. Yeah, they do a lot of stuff. Very, I would say, creative, chaotic. They try to create negative plays, sacks, fumbles, turnovers, and so that's what we're going to be ready for. We're going to be ready for a lot of pressures. We're going to be ready for changing up coverages, guys being in different places, giving unique looks. They do a lot of that, stemming 3 down, 4 down, vice versa, getting 4 down or 3 down. So they present a lot of different pictures, and so it's going to be a good challenge for us. And listen, I do the same thing, right? Like their plan. You look at the last game or two, they pressured those guys, and Wyoming pressured us, and they got to us at some critical moments. So we're going to get pressured. We'll be ready for it. That's what we're practicing.
Coach, you talked about this
Yeah, I think he's done a really good job of, like you said, getting back to full strength, making plays, and so we feel like we got 4 or 5 really good receivers out there, and JC has a tight end, and we got some other guys that present some things that we could do and continue. But Matty Coleman's done a really nice job. We just got to continue to catch the football. You look at the 2 weeks ago, no drops. This one we had a couple, so those are some things. But Matty Coleman does a really good job of creating space and separation, and he's kind of like your security blanket out there too. You got a lot of weapons out there, and he lines up opposite of Danny Scudero, and sometimes we're in the slot together. They're paired up together, so you got a lot of shiftiness there. You got guys that can play off one another, and he does a really good job of catching the football. So it's nice having him out there. Mm-hmm. Knock on wood on that one. Mm-hmm. Right. I like the way you think. It's really encouraging. But I think I've said this from day one. It's just playing clean football. See the looks, whatever it is, block it, throw it, catch it, protect it, finish in the end zone. And, they like I said, they do a great job of trying to knock you out of field goal range. They try to do a really good job of creating negative plays to get you out of that zone. They take a lot of risk, but high risk, high reward. So for us, it's just a matter of not overcomplicating it. It's complicated, but it's a simple game. Just block, catch, run, take care of the football, and finish in the end zone. So that's all we got to focus on. Yeah, we're practicing those guys. The 2 guys that went in, we're getting a ton of reps. And just like we told Vic, I'm not, changing the game plan. It is what it is because that's what we do. And so we just got to keep on giving those guys a looks, give them confidence. And like I told the offense, the biggest thing is when you're in those moments and say your leader goes down, right? Somebody's got to rise up. People got to go ahead and step up to the plate. But it's not doing more than what you're asked to do. All it means is just focus on your job and just hold yourself a little bit more accountable. And it's not just, it's everybody, right? So just got to get those guys ready to play. Breathe some confidence into them. And I play receiver. So I told the receivers, listen, is the balls from X and Tama is going to be as good as Walker? I don't know. But I know one thing. If they're not, you got to make the tough catches. You got to make those guys feel comfortable. I've been in situations as a player where we had to switch quarterbacks out because of injury or whatnot. And guess what? The next guy came in. It wasn't like he was lights out from the get-go. We had to step up our game, and all we did was just play normal, catch the football, score touchdowns, help the guy out. Then he gets on a roll. Next thing you know, he's making everybody look really good. So it's just everybody's just got to play a clean game and not overthink things.
More questions, Coach?
Hey, Coach, Heidi Barbuti, Spears, Spartan Daily. What have you kind of seen from Lamar Radcliffe and Steve Chabot-Soto, 2 guys that are, started the season off on like the running back 3, 4, 5, or kind of just like, what have you kind of seen from them, like filling in for like Floyd and Tavares?
Yeah, I think there's some flashes of really, really good. Obviously in the New Mexico game, played really well. This past game, I think some of the when you start off as 3rd or 4th, whatever it is, or you're on the scout team or you're a freshman, you don't have a lot of experience. There's some things that you learn. The greatest teacher, right, in the game is game experience and making mistakes. You got to learn from mistakes. So there are some things that nobody's going to be perfect when they first get in the game. Nobody's going to be perfect every time they're in the game. So, but what I do like from them is they run hard, they punish guys, they get tough yards, they're physical, running backs. So that's going to bode well for us. We can get the ball out quick, spread it around, take our shots down the field. When we get light boxes, hand it off to those guys, and go punish those dudes up front. Because Lamar, again, I think he took somebody out again this past game against Wyoming. So I like that.
All right, final question for Coach.
Coach, I want to ask about Derrick
Mhm.
and receivers in general here.
Mhm.
What are you looking for specifically, and what makes a perfect fit receiver for San Jose's offense?
Yeah, that's a great question because receivers come in all different shapes, sizes, speed. But the biggest thing is, guys, they gotta be tough. Everybody talks about receivers as being fast or flashy. If you're not tough, you ain't gonna be great. All the greatest receivers that's ever played the game, they were tough. That's the first and foremost thing. Second thing is, there's a way they understand how to get open. Nick Nash was a little different. He was a long guy, but he understands leverages. He understands how to get himself open, and he caught the ball extremely well. Danny Scudero, he's twitchy. He knows how to get open. He knows how to use his body. He knows how far he has to stay away from defenders, and he knows how to react with lightning quick speed. He can process a lot of things from his eyes to his brain to his body that allows him to almost look like he teleports himself, right? But he's just reacting off of guys. But I think those two things, it's the ability to get open, understanding leverages, and the toughness. And obviously, you got to catch the football. They're receivers, they're not retrievers, right? They're not retrieving the football that's been dropped. So those three things. But if you have that ability, we'll get you the football and you're going to catch a lot and you're going to have a lot of yards. And so that's why the other guys that we have, Matty Coleman, he understands leverages and he's a shifty guy. Leland, he's a big body guy. He's probably more your Nick Nash type of guy. He's got to continue to understand what his leverages are and finish with the football in front of his body, catching it. Leland, he's got twitch and he's smooth, But I think those are the biggest things. You got to be tough. You got to understand your body. You got to understand leverages, and you got to be able to create separation. But that's great receiver play. And I think within the system, when you're able to do that, it enhances your ability to get open even more because we give you options. So it's just one of those perfect mixes, I would say.